Broadway and radio during the Depression years.
It was so cold out here, even the Republicans were waiting for the fireside chats.
Bob Hope broke into stardom with his first movie, The Big Broadcast of 1938, from which he took his signature song.
Thanks for the memory of rainy afternoons, swingy Harlem tunes, motor trips and burning lips and burning toast and prunes. How lovely it was.
Leslie Towns Hope was born in England in 1903, but raised in Cleveland, Ohio. He kept his prominent nose, but changed his name for the business.
I thought maybe if I change my name like Bob, it's chummy. Bob, and maybe I'll get some work out of that, you know?
He got work, eventually making 58 movies. He tended to play the likable loser.
This man is Monsieur Beaucaire, a common barber. Are you going to accept that?
Well, a man's entitled to an opinion.
Join me in a drink? Don't mind if we do. What'd they have? Oh, a couple of fingers of rot gut. What's yours?
I'll take a lemonade. In a dirty glass.
His best-known films were the series of 7 road pictures with Bing Crosby, Road to Singapore, Zanzibar, and
Like Webster's Dictionary, we're Morocco bound.
he traveled in real life as well.
Ladies and gentlemen, here we are in Naples. Here we are in West Berlin, Guantanamo. Nice to be here at Don K. We're thrilled to be here at Osan Air Base, Korea. Happy to be here. I don't know where the hell we are, but I'm happy.
Starting in World War II, he entertained American troops in the field in war and peace.
I just want you boys to see what you're fighting for, that's all.
From Europe to Saudi Arabia. Politically, Hope was a conservative, but he liked presidents and the company of whoever held the office.
Clinton's going to Washington. Arkansas folks are thrilled to the core. They won't have to hear him practice on that saxophone anymore.
Something about Bob Hope carried him through the years. He was never the funniest man in America, never the best actor, the best dancer, but he was always entertaining. Brian Rooney, ABC News, Hollywood.
That nobody else could do.
Entertaining and patriotic. In a radio broadcast just after the attack on Pearl Harbor, Hope said, "There is no need to tell a nation to smile or keep smiling when it's never stopped. It is the ability to laugh that makes us the great people we are," he said. A little later in the program, more Hope. Within moments, the majority leader in the House of Representatives requested that the news be announced on the House floor. It was, to say the least, a story ahead of its time. Hope had a good laugh about it, his wife said at the time, and then he wanted to go out and hit some golf balls, but decided against that because all the news helicopters were flying around thinking that he had passed on. He laughed at himself, and the country laughed with him.
Thank you. How do you do, fellas? This is Bob. This is Bob, Command Performance Hope, telling each Nazi that's in Russia today that Crimea doesn't pay.
Thanks for the memory of sentimental verse, nothing in my purse.
Ladies and gentlemen, here we are in Naples, one of the command headquarters of NATO. NATO, that's a Latin term meaning get your cotton-picking hands off my border. You know, 2 years ago I visited Berlin. You know what a mess that is. Last year I visited Cuba, and you know what a disaster that became. This year they sent me here. Good luck, man. You know, the president stopped bombing North Vietnam, but he just dropped a $113 billion budget on us. That's what happens when you give a Texan an expense account. I could tell Nixon was nervous. He was given the victory sign with one finger.
Bob, I hope you'll forgive me for saying this, but I think you've got a lot of courage.
How do you mean?
You know, you do jokes about the president, about the Pentagon, and about Congress. How do you get away with it?
Get away with it? Why do you think I keep winding up in Nakam Phanam? This is dangerous. If this audience sees steak, they'll come right up here after it.
Oh, I don't know. They've seen ham all evening, and you're still here.
What makes you think you got all the brains?
How much is 2 and 2?
4.
4 and 4.
8.
8 and 8.
Get in.
Chilly, isn't it? You need something around you, preferably me.
Mini skirts are bigger than ever. Even some of the fellas are wearing them. Don't laugh. If you'd have thought of it, you wouldn't be here.
You guys are great. Where else can you see signs that say Yankee go home? Signed by Yankees.
Speaking for everybody on command performance and saying the best of the best from the USA. So long.
That's our report on World News Tonight. There'll be more about Hope later this evening on Nightline. I'm Peter Jennings. Have a good evening. Good night from Washington.
For anything.
I'm Leonard Maltin in front of the Toluca Lake home where Bob Hope died last night surrounded by his family.
The rare footage from inside the E.T. vault. The outtakes with Lucille Ball.
Boy, do you have a gun.
My day inside the sprawling Hope estate and what Bob and his wife Dolores told me about the night they met. What Johnny Carson says as Hollywood says goodbye and thanks for the memories.
He was a spectacular human being.
Accurately reflects the man.
Mary, I'm standing in front of the Bob Hope home in Toluca Lake, where he and his wife Dolores were neighborhood fixtures for more than half a century. In fact, every Halloween, if you trick-or-treated here, you didn't get candy. You got a Bob Hope souvenir.
Our Leonard Maltin was a neighbor of Bob's who died peacefully last night, surrounded by family and friends that included a Catholic priest who said a mass for the entertainer. This morning, a flag flew at half-staff over the family residence, while Bob's daughter Linda spoke with the press at the Television Academy.
I can't tell you how beautiful and serene and peaceful it was. And the fact that there was a little audience gathered around, even though it was family, I think warmed Dad's heart.
Bob was remembered by Johnny Carson, who said of him, quote, "He was the best loved, most admired, and most successful entertainer in all of history. He is quite simply irreplaceable."
He was always phenomenal, always a nice guy, always giving me golf tips. So he was a gentleman to the very end.
Kelsey Grammer told E.T., "He gave us 100 years and still left us wanting more." He was born Leslie Towns Hope in 1903 in Eltham, England, but emigrated with his family to Cleveland, taking to the stage as a vaudeville comedian while still in his teens. He later starred on Broadway and in the 30s made his mark on radio. But it was perhaps his classic series of road films for Paramount Pictures with Bing Crosby that made him a household name.
Patty cake, baker's man. Bake a cake as fast as you can.
Half the time we'd cheat on each other. I would steal a joke that he was going to tell in a few seconds, and it would be a big take, you know, an ad lib that you can't buy anywhere.
5 decades later, Bob made a triumphant visit back to his Paramount home to dedicate the studio's New York Street set with his frequent leading lady, Dorothy Lamour.
I worked here for a long time, and in fact, I feel like getting a little money for this right now.
Here we are at Fort Davis in the Panama Canal. Ladies and gentlemen, we're here at Gitmo, the Navy's answer to Birdland.
But of all his audiences, it was the fighting men and women of his adopted country to whom Bob was most devoted. Beginning with World War II, his USO tours brought welcome laughter from home to the battlefield.
Ladies and gentlemen, here we are in Vietnam. Mini skirts are bigger than ever. Even some of the fellas are wearing them. Don't laugh. If you'd have thought of it, you wouldn't be here.
They had headlines, get out of Vietnam. Headlines in the papers, you know. But that didn't make any difference to those kids over there. They were waiting and wondering when they were going to get home, and that didn't make any difference to me.
Today, Gloria Stefan told us she once accompanied Bob on a USO trip to South Korea.
I'm an Army brat. My dad served in Vietnam, so when I went there with Bob Hope, I was really even more appreciative of what he had done for all our troops through the years.
In 1991, Bob made his last USO tour during Operation Desert Storm.
You know that Milli Vanilli had planned to be over here Thanksgiving when President Bush was here, but they were afraid people wouldn't know whose lips to read. I felt like we were privileged to have the chance to entertain those guys. I wouldn't trade those moments for anything.
Hope's devotion to the troops overseas wasn't lost on those sitting in the Oval Office. He met with every U.S. president since FDR, and Bob's standing as a national treasure was enhanced even further when he became the host of the Academy Awards for a record 18 times.
As it's known at my house, Passover.
Bob also conquered another medium, beginning with this pioneering TV broadcast in 1947.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Bob, first commercial television broadcast Hope.
This is a rare outtake from one of his early TV specials with Lucille Ball.
Are you engaged? Girlfriend? Boy, do you have a Boy, have you got a
What were you going to say?
I don't know.
You got a goldfish?
His TV specials remained an institution right through to the 90s. For his 81st birthday, NBC threw a gala party that had even the First Lady serenading Bob.
We thank you so much.
People say to me, why don't you retire? I enjoy what I do, and as long as they're laughing, that keeps me alive.
I thank you so much.
No, thank you, Bob, for all those memories. Coming up, Bob's love story with his wife, Dolores, their nearly 70-year marriage, and my visit inside their LA home. Their marriage was that rare Hollywood love story, and the romance they still shared when I visited the couple 10 years ago is something I will never forget. The day Bob and Dolores invited me into their home in 1993 was truly special. The 7-acre estate had been the couple's private hideaway for over 50 years. And though at that point they had been married for more than half a century, Bob told me how he was smitten with the lovely Dolores Reed the moment he saw her sing in a New York nightclub.
I met her 59 years ago, and she walked on the stage and started singing, what was the song?
Paper Moon.
Paper Moon. And I said, wait a minute, how long has this been going on? And I couldn't get enough of her and I had my own limousine, my own apartment, and I had all the girls in the show and everything, but
I took care of all that.
To me, I'll tell you that.
How do you keep yourself energized?
It's a thing called ham. You know, I think I'm hammier than anybody else, because I love to hear an audience laugh. Nothing like it. And I work on it all the time.
You've had this place since 1939?
Bob bought the property in 1938. And we started building the house in 39 and moved in 40.
Bob was celebrating his 90th birthday. Although a bit hard of hearing, he was still making his TV specials because of his longtime love affair with him.